Okay. This is the Littleton Sustainability Committee meeting from Thursday, June 5th, 2025. And we'll start with a member roll call. If you would, Margaret.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm getting confused where I'm going. Okay, so I see Sarah and Charlotte and myself and Rob and John Hagberg and Emily Squires and Michelle Zelenka, Regional Energy Manager.
That's it.
Great. All right. Next up is minutes to approve. And I sent those out with the agenda. Are there any comments?
Looked great to me.
I did not attend, but it looks like you had a robust discussion.
All right. If no comments, then is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes from the May 1st meeting as presented.
All right. All right. Seconded by Charlotte. We'll go around for a vote. Emily.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't there.
Okay. Margaret.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Charlotte.
Yes.
John.
Abstain?
All right. And I approve. All right. Third is public input. I don't think we have anyone here from the public, so we'll go on. So the next item is the climate action plan. And Michelle, you had asked specifically, you wanted to talk about the greenhouse gas inventory.
Yeah, so I know we discussed at the last meeting a couple of options, and a few members provided the link to the new tool that's been created. So it's from what I've gathered, I actually reached out to, I believe her name is Zana Kramer. She's the professor at Bentley who put together the tool. It's very similar data inputs to the MAPC greenhouse gas inventory tool, the spreadsheet. And there is some differences and there is some data missing that she still is working on kind of getting put into that tool. And one thing I also noticed as well, and I believe a few members brought up, is that it seems like using the MAPC's spreadsheet, it's a lot bigger, like the emissions data, than what the data was showing on that new tool. So I brought that up with her, and we kind of went through the spreadsheet just to kind of double check things. And I think one reason, and I reached out to Connor at Littleton Electric Light and Water Department. So I realized some of the data he sent it has Boxborough in as well, not just Littleton. So that might kind of account for that larger emissions. So I reached out to him. He's working on getting isolating just the Littleton residents and commercial and industrial customers. So with that, we have a few options with the inventory. So there's the 2017 baseline, which is what many other towns have used for their climate action plans. It's also the baseline that the priority climate action plan for the greater Boston area is using. But then there is the 2022 update. So for what I'm thinking is the 2017, if we want to kind of maintain consistency with the rest of the region, and then also kind of stay in line with the Boston Priority Climate Action Plan. We do also have that 2022 inventory as well. I've inputted the data for that. Yeah, so I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that and what you're thinking as well.
One question, Michelle, does it matter as far as like the the new library building wouldn't have been on the 2017, but it would be on the 2022, I assume. Like, does it matter that there are new buildings?
So the inventory, it's not just the municipal buildings, it's also taking into account like residential data as well. I could double check on that and see maybe what the best course of action, considering I know that we want to add a few of those buildings to the baseline in MEI and the energy reduction plan. One thing we could also do, and I know Townsend was kind of interested in that, is you can sort of show progress within MEI that use that data as well, and have sort of that narrative of what's been done and what's been added to the baseline. But there just needs to be like a clear narrative of why we are including that, and then why we are choosing either like 2017 or 2022 as the baseline.
Rob.
I'm sorry, what would be the reason to not use 2022 other than to maintain consistency with the other towns and communities around us that, and in part because they did their climate action plan earlier than us? Probably, you know, they wouldn't have had 2022 data. I'm only curious because we actually have had quite a bit of residential development since 2017 too. Cooper Farm went in. I don't know. I think Durkee got finished. So I worry about not just the library, the commercial buildings. It seems to me it's always better to have the most updated data available from which to work on your planning going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a story to be told between 2017 and 2022, and there's a reason to use 2017 because it's easier, or I mean, whatever the reason is, other than just consistency with the other communities, I'm less inclined to think that's an important reason than something else, maybe. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, definitely understand that. And again, like also with 2017, with greenhouse gas inventories, it's sometimes difficult to kind of pick the baseline year, but you do also want to choose a year that has kind of the earliest and like most up-to-date data.
Yeah.
So in that case, going by the MAPC standards as well, it's the 2017 inventory.
Because that would be the most I guess you use the word up to date. I'm arguing the most complete.
Yeah, sorry. That's a good point. I should say more complete.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that actually makes more sense, right? Because if the 2022 data is less complete, then we would want to start with the best data possible. I agree with that. And then to the extent we can then add data at all, data associated with the additional development that has gone in since 2017, that would probably be helpful. And again, to add to your narrative, maybe, I guess, I don't know. Okay.
Any other comments? Oh, Don.
Yeah, I often when I try to figure out what to do in something like that, do a quick analysis of the pluses and minuses. So we've heard for 2017, there's more consistency with the other MAPC communities. And it sounds like for the overall MAPC plan, the priority plan, that makes sense. Still not sure how one jerry rigs it to accommodate more buildings coming online. What are, I guess I'm still sort of unclear as to the pluses and minuses for both baselines being proposed. And also I was sort of curious what insight Diane Dickerson may have, since she's wrestled with this and has some insights. So is it possible just to summarize the pluses and minuses of 2017 versus 2022?
Yeah, so I'd say for 2017, obviously it's not the most up-to-date year. The 2022 MAPC tool came out in, I believe, February of this year. So a plus for that is it's more up-to-date emissions data. And then for 2017, thinking kind of more as a region, it's what many other communities in surrounding Littleton have used, and then of course the Priority Climate Action Plan is using that baseline. So those are my main kind of reasons for thinking like using 2017. I think it's mainly the kind of standardization of the region.
Yeah, you just froze. After
sorry.
you said, here's the reason for using 2017, that froze. So what did you say after that?
Sorry, just the kind of standardization and consistency was what I was mentioning. And Don, I'm not sure if you heard about how I spoke with the Bentley professor.
Right.
I'm not sure if you.
I got a little bit of snippet of it. I guess
okay.
you talked to Connors, and Boxborough data was embedded with ours, apparently.
Yeah,
so I was having some issues of things fighting our, WinZip and stuff. But I did catch that, which I think answers it. Yeah.
Yeah,
which I was glad to hear.
And, I'm sorry.
Well, what's your best insight? You've wrestled with this, and I still am not quite sure how you work with a 2017 baseline, then jury rig it for adding more buildings on board that maybe you have to guess a baseline for it. So I'm not quite sure how it plays out, but you have some insight on that. So what would you recommend?
So when looking at so working with Townsend as well, they had a similar kind of question related to their MEI data and their energy reduction plan when their baseline when they became a green community. So they want to include the 2010 like MEI data for their municipal buildings specifically. So for their climate action plan, that definitely can be part of the narrative, especially kind of explaining what they've done, the energy conservation measures they've implemented, and sort of tracking those goals with their municipal buildings. So I think we can definitely do something similar with Littleton. I might need to look into it a little bit more. I know Diane has been trying to get that information related to the library and senior center. So I'm thinking we could definitely do something similar for that.
And then, not to make it more confusing, but I can think of various other studies. They do different scenarios. This is on a spreadsheet. And is it possible to do whatever good tracking is onward from here, but then be able to look at it from a 2017 baseline and also look at it from a 2022 baseline? Or is that too complex? Yeah. Going forward, we have the same data, but it's adjusting the baseline. And part of that is adding on other buildings. I mean, would it be possible to have it being able to look at two scenarios? I mean, would that be some benefit to us, or is that just painful?
I can definitely look into that and see. I don't think I've seen that just comparing other climate action plans in Massachusetts, but I can look into that and see, get some more insight.
I mean, basically, we want something that's pragmatic and useful. Mm-hmm. And I know some people may change things to look better, one baseline versus another. I don't think that's really our concern. Our concern is to what's going to give us the best insights and be most useful for us. So whoever that is, yeah, I'm aboard for that. But you're going to have better insights than we do, I think.
Charlotte, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, thanks for the interesting discussion so far. A couple questions, Michelle, and if you don't have answers to these all right now, that's absolutely fine. We can address them later. But on the baseline, when I was doing a little digging, it seems like pandemic disruption might come into play. So I can see that as possibly being an argument for picking 2017.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, maybe. The other one is, are we looking at a per capita baseline or a sort of gross baseline? Given Littleton's population growth, it's, I believe, one of the fastest growing communities in Mass. So maybe that's something for us to consider, a per capita metric, which could be helpful. And of course, I'm assuming that there's some element of replicability here, that we want a baseline where obviously we want to be able to track that. I think whatever we decide, whatever you decide, it'd be great to really document clearly what methodology and why, just because, I mean, even just with this conversation, right, there's a lot of queries. So if there's a way to just really make sure that that methodology is super clear, I think that would be helpful for future generations of people interested in the topic. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you brought up the methodology, because that's definitely something that it's usually like an appendix of the climate action plans. And if often, these baselines are updated in the future, so you want to consider that as well. And whoever is doing that baseline, say, I don't know, 10 years from now, you want to make sure they have a method to follow and understand the original data.
Great, thank you.
John.
So first of all, thanks, Emily, and everyone. Michelle, thank you. I think having one baseline to work from at this point, just hearing this discussion, right, having a methodology that sticks to one baseline allows us to move forward most nimbly. And then if we enter another plan at some point in the future, then you start another baseline. That's as a planner, that's just kind of how we work, right? I generally think you start from one baseline. Having the two, Dawn, I think is an interesting idea for us to consider. It feels like then you also have to have two methodologies explained as to why you chose 17 and 22 and not, when 25 data comes out, you didn't re-baseline against that as well. So my suggestion would be that we stick with one baseline. And Michelle, I obviously defer to you on which baseline that should be from my position.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Michelle, do you need us to give you a thumbs up or anything, or did you just want to run it by us?
Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on it and run it by you. I do want to kind of check to see some of the comments you've made and look into that a little bit more, and kind of go from there. Since I still need to get some of the data from Connor, the update, I think there's still a little bit of time to kind of make that decision, but I can definitely follow up with some of that information. Because I do understand too, we want to move forward and start kind of drafting out actions to take, and then I know the next topic is the sort of public engagement related to it. So,
yeah, and I think as far as baseline, I think the general theme I heard was there were some things to think about, but we generally would say do what you think in your professional opinion is the right thing to do.
Thank you. Yeah.
So did you have any particular thing on outreach you wanted to talk about?
So I did want to start kind of thinking, because I know on the schedule we have a greenhouse gas inventory outreach. education event. So I wanted to start maybe planning that out, just coming up with potential venues, dates in the future that might work, and then ways of engagement, which I think the third Thursdays kind of plays into that conversation as well. So I wanted to get some of like your ideas on who to reach out to and potential events that we could maybe use to get the word out.
I did confirm that that there will be third Thursdays this year, and the first one will be June 19th.
And it's worthwhile noticing that that's a federal holiday, a state holiday. I don't think it's going to happen on the 19th. I mean, it'd be highly unlikely.
As far as I heard, they did decide to go ahead with it, even though it is Juneteenth.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that we definitely should have a presence there, and we, even if it's at a minimum, we have the flyer and just start educating people. If we have anything else we want to do. And actually, I was going to ask John, we sort of have a credit or something to get those games back again as a draw. Is that?
Yep, I can reach back out. So we had gotten games for one of the third Thursdays that got rained out, and so we had them, and they said if we just want to reach back out and use them another time, not a problem. So happy to reach out to the folks. I think that was through Mass Energize. So I can go back through my email, and if you'd like, I can also work on securing a spot at third Thursday with Tim. If you'd like me to take those actions, happy to do them.
Yeah, I definitely think you should be, if you want to reach out to Tim to make sure we have a spot, that would be great. I don't know what everyone thinks about if we do manage to be at all three, if we want to get the games for the first one, or I guess I would kind of say yes. Would be, my thinking was actually with June 19th being a holiday, it may mean that there would be more attendees because school's not out. They've been off for the day, but who knows? Charlotte, you have your hand up.
Yeah, well, for better or for worse, school is done by then as well, but camp hasn't started. So maybe people are looking for ways to kill some time. Do you know if it's going to be held at Fay Park, or I know sometimes it's over at the Castle in the Trees, like basketball area?
The last I heard, they didn't know, but I'm not sure if a decision's been made in the last week.
Okay. I feel like that might sort of influence kid participation. So one of the things that seemed kind of popular when we did the Christmas Bazaar was like coloring pages, just sort of, cute little coloring pages to give out to kids, and then the parents stop by, and like there's some sort of planet Earth sort of theme. That's one little thing that we could have if we didn't have the games, or even if we did have the games. Ways to kind of get some of the little kids involved as well.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's sustainability or other groups that I've been with. We've also done bubbles, which were a big draw, and temporary tattoos, which takes a little more work, but they were a nice draw too.
Backlog of bubbles, so I can definitely contribute some of those. Okay.
What about as far as an educational meeting? Are we thinking September?
August, if that's
In August?
Yeah.
Do we think we would get participation? I'm just not sure.
I know it is the summer still, and kind of the month before school gets back in session. So
I mean, we can plan for it. I can't say that it's not a good idea. Just throwing it out there.
And if we did it in August, would we also redo it again in September? I mean, August may get some people, but it may also warm up people to do another one in September.
So
Or-
I know. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, or even we could do one a little bit closer to if we are going to a town meeting with the forget the name of it, the climate emergency
Declaration. Yeah.
Yeah, then having it maybe a few weeks before town meeting, if we did a second one, might be a good idea.
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead with what you were going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to August or September. I think it just depends on, if people are going to be engaged or, and I'm also open to events, especially considering, the climate emergency declaration and town meeting. I think also scheduled for kind of beginning of the fall is a survey as well. So that may also help kind of get engagement for that aspect of the plan.
My sense is it would be good to know the dates by the July and August third Thursday, and we use those as pitching the date and trying to get commitment for people to come to the date or dates. I like the idea, if we're able to do two, sometimes schedules, different days, different times is helpful for folks. I think that come the end of, so Labor Day is what, September 1st this year? And so
Yeah.
school will start on the Wednesday in Littleton. School will start Wednesday before Labor Day now. And so I imagine folks will be back folks with kids will be back in that last week. Cause whether it's Tuesday, when Charlotte, maybe you can help me here with the younger kids. Do they go earlier a day than the older kids? I can't remember anymore. But I think it's like Tuesday, Wednesday of that week.
I think they go back on the Tuesday, actually. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the 26th.
Yeah.
27th. So maybe we could look at like the 28th, and that would be a week after the last third Thursday.
The only problem with that going the Thursday night is Friday is off of school, and that goes into the Labor Day weekend. So you probably
yes.
are going to lose like you either want to go Tuesday, Wednesday of that week, I think, because not just kid. I think you'll get people that you'll lose for the Labor Day weekend on a Thursday night. Probably me.
I will say I am moving September 1st. So I think, if it's like a week before that or a couple days before that weekend, it would be nice.
Well, were you thinking more towards the middle of the month, Michelle?
I was thinking at least like initial engagement come August. I like the idea, especially considering like the emergency declaration and town meeting, of maybe having another one just to, again, kind of be up front and, continue educating people or whoever may not have been able to make it to the first one. So I do like that idea.
And I think as much as we can do like at third Thursday and like going to where the people are rather than hoping that people come to a meeting that we call will help us be successful in that.
Yeah, the more the better. I mean, my feeling for town meeting is that things are not well educated to the public before the meetings. I mean, you cannot do too much education in preparation for town meeting. Often, and even though groups sometimes think they do sufficient, they miss certain critical groups, and sometimes it shows. So yeah, I like all that, the Thursdays and two meetings, one August, one in September before town meeting.
Well, given the third Thursday is the 21st in August. Would it be better to do something the week before? We wouldn't have an extra third Thursday to advertise it, but it would be separate from like the rush of school starting in Labor Day weekend.
Just adding, I think if we're able to also identify like what are the key messages we want to convey, what are the sort of key objectives of that engagement. So I think that'll also, to me, determine sort of the type of engagement, how long we want people there for. Is it, you know, something that they can just hear and walk away? Is it something where we want to solicit feedback and have Q&A? And if we can kind of pin down what does that engagement look like in relation to what we want from it, to me, that'll help us design, you know, exactly like, yeah, how long we want to kind of get people for, and therefore, like, even just what kind of venue and what kind of setup we would potentially want. We can also maybe keep our eyes out for any other events. I think there's like a national cleanup day or something also taking place in September. There might be a few sort of community things that we want to piggyback on, or even tie them up together so that there's an already gathered group of people who might be interested to hear about this.
Yeah, Michelle, do you want to talk about like what like if you had to say the goal of what this meeting would be, and then like what the parts would be?
Yeah, so aside from just educating, I think we definitely want an event that is almost a little bit more interactive. So I'm thinking of, for example, some of the work NIMCOG did with the in partnership with the MAPC related to the Priority Climate Action Plan. Basically, it was sort of a overview of the plan, the greenhouse gas inventory, and then there were kind of easels around the room, and they had different ways of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, like initial ideas. So for each sector, so buildings, transportation, energy, those are kind of the big three, I guess you can say, waste as well. And we had the initial ideas for reducing emissions, so EV charging, for example. And we had people kind of pin what they felt was most important, but then gave them the option to also write in their ideas as well. So that's sort of what I kind of envisioned, at least for one of these engagement activities, to have some sort of interaction and get that feedback from the public.
Could we, I've done this multiple times at third Thursdays, have a big foam core board and Post-its, and we've gotten fairly decent, depending on what question we ask, like fairly decent participation from people. So if we had like those, we could sort of have that at third Thursday, and then like maybe do it more for real at this meeting, but we definitely could start that process, or maybe even it would help to refine the questions that we want to do at that meeting.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think again, that's a great idea. Just having that sort of initial feedback would be good.
We might even get some people who wouldn't come to the meeting but might come to Third Thursday, so it might be a more representative sample perhaps as well.
All right. Well, so do we want to? Oh, go ahead, Emily. I didn't see your hand.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Just I'm not sure if this is the right time to chime in on this, but one of our issues have been getting people to come to meetings and engage. I think as a community, because we don't have a newspaper. I was wondering, can we utilize the highway department's bulletin boards that they put out asking for flowers and reminding about taxes and so on, to try to reach out, say something about climate emergency declaration input meeting or something like that, that catches people driving in and out of town to get more people engaged, because third Thursday just doesn't really reach out to all that. Not a huge amount of people come to that in my experience, but a lot of people drive by those signs. That, or we used to have banners that would be put out over the street on King Street going into Littleton Commons, but I haven't seen those for a while. These were other good ways. I know Acton used to use those as well.
They don't do them anymore.
Okay, but if we could find the alternatives that catch people coming in and out, or even the signs that remind you to pay your property taxes, right? Putting signs out where people drive by, trying to get more engagement. The town's newsletter is not hugely distributed. Yeah, nothing really is. We also, I don't know much about social media, but I think there's a lot of people that get onto Facebook's sites for the town. But we really need to figure out how to do some reaching out to the community. I mean, there's a core group of people who come to almost all of these. How do we get some of this out further? Maybe going through schools and having, so students know about it, might mention to their parents and things like that. But we might need a brainstorming session within our committee to figure out ways we can do these things more efficiently.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned the schools, and I spoke with Dave Riley, and he does a lot of like the education related to energy use in the schools. So I'm wondering if maybe we could talk to him as well and use that as a potential avenue.
Yeah, for sure, getting the word out will be a big part of this.
Does it make sense to have a smaller group get together and really brainstorm this and then assign action items because we need to do this quickly. We only have a couple of meetings beforehand and really need actions to be done and fed in so that by August we have, we probably should start advertising within the schools probably earlier. Well, actually, no one's going to be in school over the summer.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'd have to catch them before they leave in a couple of weeks. But again, it would be sitting down and brainstorming, and then having actions that can be just divided among whomever and within the committee to try to drive that to fruition.
You're talking about publicity or the whole? Yeah.
And what we come up with should be something that's useful for all of our actions. How do we address that? We of course would have on the Energize Littleton, but again, we have limited outreach through that, and we really need to expand this. And the big ones have been those signs that I see, either telling us about our taxes, which are just sitting there in front of the key places throughout the town, or those big boards that the highway department uses, and then I guess social media, but I'm not very fluent.
Yeah, for sure. We can talk to Highway. I know like they did put the sign up for Zero Waste Day in the past. And I think I had shared with you, Michelle, like a doc that I had done years ago of like a list of ways to publicize things. And so when we have something to publicize, we'll definitely we can try to hit all those things.
Yeah, I have that document with like Facebook pages, I think, and a couple other like websites.
Yeah, and we you know, we do have that small budget that we could use to you can fairly easily we can get a big sign printed that and laminated that we have like we've used them for the library. We have I think John was the engineer of these lovely sandwich board signs that can go out, and you know, we can put a sign on that. That would be another way.
Do you think we can get electronic versions of those? You know, thinking about sustainability, how expensive are those? And can we get something where we, you know, as we can reuse?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Do they? There used to be a company that before E-Ink that did actually it was E-Ink back in the early days, and they had banners where you could electronically change the message. It acted like paper, looked like paper.
Mm-hmm.
We would put up on department stores and so on when they were first coming out with it. I do not know where it went from there, but something like that, something that's inexpensive, that we can go in and buy, but change what the message is without having to print something, throw it away when it's done, and so on. You know, can we get into the digital region? Do you want me to take the action item to look?
Sure. I have not. I mean, I know about E-Ink, but I've never seen anything that large. I guess, I mean, what I'm thinking of is like, it does have plastic laminating it, but it's pretty low tech. Just, you know, you print I don't know, it's like maybe 20 by 24 black and white print, and laminate it is $25 or so, maybe.
My concern is throwing it away. You know, we're generating waste for that. You know, but in case,
yeah, I guess I'm not. Yeah, I guess I'm having a hard time imagining how an E-Ink, like, you know, like a giant e-reader, is scalable and like weather resistant and so forth.
So let me take an action item to take a look and see if they made it robust. I haven't seen it since they first came out with it.
Okay.
30 years ago, as a demo in a department store in the local area. So,
okay. Don, your hand is raised.
So, you know, talking about different techniques and ways to engage people, it sounds as if it makes sense having a task group that's less than the quorum and less than the committee of the whole, to be able to work on things, make decisions, and move ahead without going to the whole body. So that would be good. Certainly there are different techniques and methodologies of engaging groups, but also thinking of town meeting, which is the critical part, and getting a vote through there. People should also target various committees they want to have as their advocates to have on board, and maybe also various individuals who are influencers who speak up at meetings, either can kill things or make things work, and hear them out and let them ask their questions and try to educate them. So we go into the meeting knowing what response you're going to get, but, you know, engage the people who will be there and who want to be engaged and who will talk to it one way or another to make sure they are well educated and they at least have an understanding, and hopefully that they're advocates for it. And, you know, doing presentations for committees, maybe before the Rotary Club, which always is looking for a program, you know, influence the people that are going to influence the audience there at town meeting. And I mean, that is engagement, but you know who's going to speak to it one way or another. I mean, I can name them as well as you could. And so this task group can at least engage them. Once we have our story together as what we're trying to sell and the reason why, then have a group that goes off and educates these people. And if there are problems, hear it then and there before the meeting, get the feedback, and give a chance
Sure.
for people to express their thoughts and question things. Anyway,
Sure.
it should be a task group that does that as well as coordinates the other things.
Margaret.
Yes, I think that's a great idea to influence the influencers. But the reason I put up my hand is this e-ink thing and just the electronic signs. It reminds me that I walk by the middle school many days, and I noticed that their electronic sign, is finally working again. They've got some new things up there. And I was wondering if it's possible to get them to put something up during the summer when they wouldn't have necessarily so many other things they want to communicate. Who
great
would be
idea.
able to talk to them?
I don't know who, it would either be I guess the principal of the middle school, or probably going through the central office. That would probably be the place to start.
Once we know what we want to say, I'm happy to reach out to Jason and
Yeah.
figure out the process at the principal at the middle school. We work with him on a number of things, so happy to
Okay.
make that ask if we decide we want to put something that's a good idea, Margaret.
Yeah, so to kind of circle back, I think that we know we want to have an event. Sounds like start with one in August, and maybe we'll want to have another in October. And we do want to do the third Thursdays. And we sort of, I think, have a general idea of what we can do at the third Thursdays. And we have goals and ideas for the event. But what we do need is some dates to aim for, so that we could look into getting a room either in town hall or the library or elsewhere. So I guess, Michelle, did you have any particular dates in mind?
So I was thinking, I don't have like a specific date. I was also thinking maybe the senior center, the new senior center might be a good option for like having a room to present in. So I could maybe reach out and start there to kind of secure a specific date.
I think that would be a great like additional draw, because people want to go see it.
Yeah, it's new
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, very, very efficient. So
Okay.
Well, Noe is very, very good, but it's also environmentally very sound. And it's also, one of the things to be promoted. Yeah.
yeah, we can definitely kind of attach that a little bit to the presentation as well.
One of the issues with it, unfortunately, correct me if I'm wrong, is I believe it does not have evening hours and so on. However, that could be checked in with. I think I asked when I went on the tour how they could handle that. I'm not sure if they're set up for that. So you just have to check and make sure, because I wanted to know if they locked up just like the library and the people come in after hours. I don't remember what their inclusion was, but
That
it's something
came
to
up in
check.
a meeting on Monday, a different meeting, but apparently, Emily, they said that they are changing that. It is being updated some evening hours where you can like have a pass that you can get in and stuff.
Okay, so they are changing that.
Apparently, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Can we just come in and take I mean, we talked before about potential dates in August, based off the school calendar. so why don't we go back to that and take a look at that? Yeah, John, and I think you had some ideas along that in Charlotte because the school, knowing the school schedule. So what were the two dates that you were recommending?
I maybe got a bit twisted around. I thought we were going to do third Thursday in August and then schedule another one in September. Like take advantage of so the August 21st one. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just agreeing. I think that's right. We have three sets of dates that we should leverage where people are going to come, and Emily, I agree with you that there's not huge attendance, but my experience has been varied attendance. It's not always the same faces. There are some same faces, and then each one has its own kind of rhythm. It feels like there's a lot of kids at the first one. There's a smaller, probably old. It feels like a more long time in town crowd for July, to lack of a better way to describe it. And then August is everyone's getting ready to go back again. And I think that's when Park and Rec really does the water slides and tries to make it very kid friendly again. And so that one seems to have been, when the weather permits itself, the best.
I agree completely that it should be that we should do the third Thursday. I'm talking about when the meetings. Yep. We're going to do two meetings, one in August and one just a couple weeks before the town meeting. We need the dates because we need to potential dates so people can go out and look and start setting up. So the third Thursday in August is the 21st. So should we have the meeting, the first meeting, the 26th or 27th?
Is that not going to?
When did school start? Because you don't want to do it the 28th because people will be leaving. Might be leaving because there's no school on the 29th. I think someone said.
Rob,
I'm confused. I'm sorry. We're not planning to present anything to town meeting in October, are we? Am I missing? Did I miss that somehow? I mean, we're not running up against a deadline, are we?
I think in the plan we had endorsement of climate emergency declaration for September to November of 2025. Michelle, did that meant going to town meeting, right?
So that's my understanding from what Diane was asking about for that.
Okay, that's a very specific thing though, right? Endorsement of climate emergency, which is not, I mean, it may or may not have anything to do with a climate action plan, right? So we should be focusing our efforts on what does it take to get an endorsement of a climate emergency, not anything related to the climate action plan. Maybe I'm missing the point here, but I'm not sure I don't want to lose the lead, so to speak.
I think what we're doing is building awareness of the whole thing, and the reason and building awareness of what a climate action plan is and why the town needs it. And then here's the first step is we need to declare the climate emergency.
Well, I get that. I understand that. I'm trying to understand I'm just trying to understand the timing, the rush to the timing of the meetings when we're still debating and talking about sources of data. And I mean, we really are still in an early stage here is part of what I'm trying to say. So again, it's just me. So I'll stop and be quiet.
Before I go to the people that have their hands raised, I will also ask, I guess, also we had on the schedule the survey. We haven't really talked about that and how that ties in with these and whether we want the survey after, like we have these meetings or adjacent, and I'm not sure what's on the survey. But let me go to people with their hands raised. So, John.
Yeah, My comment, I think Rob hit on where I was, but I was actually, Rob, I was following this discussion as we were pushing towards that um, declaring a climate emergency at town meeting in October. And so I had framed that up in my head, but I think the way it was described by Emily and then also by Sarah about like we want to be able to tell the whole story though at the same time is important. So for me, it's if backwards planning is how my brain works instead of this forward planning. And so let me just take a stab at that real quick. And if this is unhelpful, I'm going to stop. But we want to go to the climate action plan next spring. Is that correct? And so in order to do that, we need to do the declaration. There's a lot of things we need to do, right? But we need to get a declaration of emergency this fall. What's the date of the fall meeting? Do we have that yet?
I can look it up.
Generally October. I Googled it real quick. I didn't see it online, but is it generally October timeframe?
28th, I think.
28th of October. So I would suggest that doing a bunch of meetings at the end of August for something that's going to happen in October is probably not the right time. I think we want to be close. We want to be doing surveys and getting general information out, but the really targeted meetings where we want to get people on board being closer to September, October feels like late September, early October feels like the right timing for Emily. I think the meetings you're talking about, which I know we had talked about having those in August earlier in the meeting, but now that we're thinking about what we're actually trying to do, it feels like leverage Third Thursday, get our surveys out, find other opportunities to get flyers in front of people, and then find dates in late September, early October. And to then Rob's point, we got to have content to deliver there, but it's really just to get people on board with why. For the people that are thrilled, they're going to want to sign up, and yet I vote for it. For the folks who don't know yet, it's a story of this is our first step, everybody. Like, you don't have to want to do a climate action plan, but there's really there should be no resistance to declaring a climate emergency, and here's why, right? It doesn't cost you anything. You're not doing anything different. It sets us up to have a much more fulsome discussion over the next 6 months. And then we'll come back to you, and then we'll find who are the people who are excited to get into the climate action plan and support us. Is that roughly what we're trying to achieve? I hadn't verbalized it exactly that way, but that's how I've now followed this discussion. And maybe everyone else was there and I'm just a bit behind.
I love that you worked backwards. That makes a lot of sense.
I'm looking for the emoji here, but I can't find it.
Don, your hand's raised.
Sure. So I'm pretty much in the same spot where other people are. I mean, it's good to, put out what I mentioned before, sort of like a Gantt chart, just a loose chart, what happens where, and have some dates. I mean, the major milestone is the town meeting for declaring a climate action plan, because that gives buy-in to go ahead with a climate action plan. So, yeah, whoever builds up to that, and the survey. So I'm not quite sure how the survey fits in as to dates and all, but I think what we need to do is, gauge around the town meeting, fall town meeting. Definitely need the declaration of emergency action, and then start sorting out how we build up to that. But with the survey, I'm not quite sure how that comes in, because that's both educational as well as giving us feedback and knowing what people are feeling and what needs to be addressed more. So I have the same feeling. You have to work backwards from the fall town meeting. We know that we do need that vote for a climate emergency.
Michelle, can you say briefly, like what the goal of the survey is? Is it more like putting out a survey to mean, you can do a survey to educate people by what you ask them. Is that the goal, or are we really trying to get some sort of data?
So for the survey, the way I intended it is more, it can be educational and there can be educational questions, but more getting their feedback on what they view as kind of being important for the town and what they want to see in the climate action plan.
So,
But I
so a
think
lot
we're
of
going,
it so prioritization would be like one of the.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Getting that kind of initial feedback.
Okay.
Yeah. But also we need to learn where people are. I think it's good having it educational in part. Like I know Diane Dickerson was also saying she's hearing some pushback about electrification. You know, some of it's due to national politics, where the funding is, and all that. We need to gauge where people are on that too, so we know what to address. Because we are going to get some pushback. And from my own perspective, you know, regardless of feelings of not knowing about the funding and so on, it's something that's needed and it's going to happen anyway. And there's going to be politics out there. So, I mean, it is worthwhile getting some sort of learning from people as to what questions they have. And that may be more than engagement. But I think the survey, you sort of know in part what you want it to say. And so that's part of the educational part. Prioritization may be a good factor. That's something we don't know for sure. It'd be nice to get a feeling on. But I mean, it's another form of engagement as well. I mean, all that's needed going up to the special town meeting.
Okay. I see two hands, and let's do that, and then I want to sum up and come to conclusions. So Emily.
Okay, so my concern with the survey is that how you ask the questions, sure how to describe it. An interactive, being collaborative and interactive, people can come in and explore nuances to the question. Whereas a survey, someone might say something, but they don't have the interaction with the people around them to understand, maybe this is not really what I mean, and so on. So I find surveys can be very difficult, except if it's really well designed and that people are knowledgeable of the terminology and what's intended by it. That's why I was thinking that these two engagement meetings were going to be with the Post-it notes and the breakout groups, focus groups, in terms of getting people giving ideas in, as compared to doing it in isolation without feedback and so on. So I'm concerned that a survey can lead you down the wrong path, the path that the people responding to might not even agree when they realize what the question really is, or because I know I've gone into meetings where by working as a group, you see different perspectives, and then doing the bigger group, and you can change your mind on things and see it in a bigger scope. So I would recommend that more emphasis be put on the breakout groups and the meetings to get people's inputs. It'd be very careful about a survey in isolation. That's my input.
John?
I had what I think is a brilliant idea, and I'm going to say it, and then you can move on to the next topic, which is, first of all, do we have the declaration of climate emergency, what that language is like already drafted? Or can we have that by June 19th, Michelle?
So yeah, there are samples from other towns that we can kind of use to model that. I can follow up and share some of those examples.
Because if we had it, the act at Third Thursday is a big poster that is the Declaration of Climate Emergency, and we ask people to sign it, like signing the Declaration of Independence. and we carry that board around with us to all of the events, and we can have someone sit at a table outside the library and be like, hey, do you want to sign this thing? Look at all of your town. Like, you get the whole town to sign this big declaration. And every time you go to a meeting, whatever, we carry this declaration of climate emergency around with us. And it becomes an artifact that gets everyone jazzed up and their names on it. So then when town meeting comes, it's awfully hard not to vote for it. So I don't know if that's a stupid idea or not, but it might just be corny enough to work. That's my last
No,
comment.
I do like that. Even if it's, I mean, there's the whole kind of, I guess, sort of like formal language of it, even if it's just something that's short and gets to the point. And I like that idea.
I will wear a tri-tip hat to every Thursday if it's helpful.
Yes. Yeah, I really like that idea. Don, let me propose what I was going to say and then come back. So what I'm hearing is third Thursday we could have interactive boards. We can have the giant declaration to sign, which I love. And we could just have simplified, like you said, like, yeah, we don't want the legalese on there, but the simplified language would be awesome. I'm kind of jazzed to like design that. But, and then at some point towards the end of the summer into September, if we had a survey that was gathering information, but sort of the same things that we would also get by talking to people at Third Thursday, and then in late September, early October, have some meetings to again like get that. So then get the groupthink kind of like getting people thinking with each other. I mean, these are just like different modes to get the, we're looking for the same kind of data, but different modes, and different communities. Then that would be close enough. Then it would also like feed right into town meeting, and we could educate on the, like, here's the language. By that time, we would have to have the language to go into the article and all that. So we would definitely by early October, we would definitely have the language for the article. So does that sound reasonable? Okay, Don, did you have something else to?
Just real quickly, there is an international climate emergency declaration that over 1,000 municipalities have signed on to. Acton used it. The wording may be a little bit international, but rather than getting caught up in wordsmithing and splitting hairs and stuff, it'd be nice to have something that a lot of people agree to, and we can point to adjacent towns that have used it, and we already have it. And that would be very nice. It's a proven thing. But I do like your general schedule you suggested. But look at that. It's, I think, on the Acton Town Meeting website and the Climate Action Plan, they have it there. And that would give us a running start towards it. That's it.
Okay.
Definitely, yeah. I think exactly like you said, using models is going to be a good idea.
Does that sound like a reasonable plan to you, Michelle?
Yeah, I think so. I thank you for John and everyone for kind of working backwards and getting that kind of clarified more.
And Michelle, I'd be happy to sit down and put it on a graph or something if that's helpful to you at all. If you want to have a separate session, that's something that I do for my job. So I'm happy to sit down and put it together in a slide with you if that's helpful.
Yeah, that would be actually great.
We can grab a half hour and bring something back for the July meeting for people to look at if that's helpful.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, so I think the immediate actions are maybe, how about John, you and I work together on materials for the June third Thursday? Is that okay? I just
Yep.
voluntold you.
That's fine. That'd be great.
Okay.
I have an email into Tim and Park and Rec and to the folks from Mass Energize to get the games for that first June meeting. They look like they're available, so I booked them while we've been sitting here.
Great. Okay. All right, then looking at the agenda and the time. So Charlotte, how long did you need for to go
Quick
over here?
update.
Okay.
Yes. I don't think it's particularly controversial, so I can just kind of run through and I can just knock out the two on the agenda if you want.
Okay.
All right. So last time we spoke, we had a discussion about the EV charger analysis. So let me just pop that up here. I had a chance to chat with Connor, and he was able to share some of the data. Can you guys see this screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So just as a quick reminder, let's try to go into this. There we go. This is what we looked at last time, which was the trends in the EV charger use across Littleton. And then what we were able to do is basically look at now what we have from, it was around July 2024 that we last looked at the data. And then Connor just sent me January through end of April data. So the big takeaway is that the number of transactions have increased pretty dramatically following installation of the new stations at Castle in the Trees and the Littleton Common and the reduced fees. So what's particularly interesting here is, well, at least I think it is interesting, you have the Castle in the Trees charger launched here. You have the Littleton Common chargers launched. Sorry, I'm trying to find if I can have a pointer here, but you can follow the arrows. And the fee reduced. The Littleton light and water customers, those are the people who are sort of enrolled as customers. The usage is not particularly increased, especially with that reduced fee. It stayed a little bit flat. Both Connor and I were like, oh, that's interesting. Not as much uptake as we would have expected. A lot of the uptake is driven by public use of the chargers at the Common. So when you go, this is also looking at then that trend in usage by the station or the charger type. So when you look at the total amount over here, you see this huge uptake in the early part of this year. But when you look at which chargers are really driving that uptick, it's primarily the ones at the Littleton Common, which is represented by this yellow line, a little bit also at the playground, but that line is a little hard to interpret, honestly. So really what you're seeing is the sort of baseline is tracking with the library chargers, and then you see this huge uptick with the installation of the chargers at the Common. Which you might expect with people kind of pulling off 495 and using the chargers there once they sort of became aware that they were there. But again, we're not seeing a ton of increase amongst the Littleton customers. Connor had wanted to see this, including the Sargent Library and Isle Road as well. So this is more for the Littleton, the sort of their perspective, but I did include it in the deck that I'll send out to you guys as well. One, I think, helpful thing is that Littleton transactions have reached an all-time high in April 2025, comparing January to April last year and January to April this year. Transactions have doubled, so good for the planet. And then we just have this last breakdown Again, kind of looking into where these transactions are occurring. So the majority of the transactions at the Littleton Common are from public users. And both the public and the customers have started using chargers at the common and the playground, while library use kind of remains high and has stayed high. So these two bar graphs on the left are basically showing the public's usage. So going from 2024, where most of the usage from the public was really with the library chargers. And then as new chargers have come on board, as you might expect, sort of the distribution between those chargers, it's kind of shared out. This is just proportionally. And then somewhat similarly with Littleton Electric light customers as well. And like I said, these are proportional usage, but overall, we did see a pretty dramatic increase in total transactions, but that was driven by the public use. Sorry, this is going on. So one of the takeaways from this first chart then is how do we get Littleton users to increase uptake of those chargers? It's a curiosity that hasn't really happened yet. Connor was saying that they will take another look at the data and just really kind of make sure that we're getting those trends correct. But he was saying that probably will result in them changing their marketing strategy, maybe having more targeted marketing towards the customers. Only about half of all customers are actually enrolled in the program. So enrollment, they need to do a bit of a push on the enrollment. Anyway, these are somewhat preliminary. This is just based on, Jan through end of April, and we agreed we would take another look maybe in a few months when we might see a little bit more of a kind of pattern. This might be a little skewed because there's not a lot of data in here. I mean, you can see the number of transactions are still relatively low. A few outliers maybe skewing this. Yeah. That was it. If you want to ask any questions.
Thank you. I have, I guess, just one comment. I actually didn't think that it was a big goal to get Littleton customers to use, because I thought they wanted like residents to charge at home. So I'm curious about that. But Emily, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, Sarah, but also I want clarification. The chargers in Littleton Common, aren't those fast chargers, type 3?
I have to double check. I've got that in my notes somewhere, which kind they are, but I'm pretty sure, yes. I think if I recall correctly, they're the fast chargers, yeah.
Okay, so that's what you would expect. People are going to go to fast chargers. They'll pull off, they'll find out that they go fast. You don't want to use a type 2 except if you're going to be somewhere for a long time. So this is exactly what you want. In the meantime, the charge is a little bit more than you would do at home. So anyone who lives in Littleton and has access to their home, which is the majority of the people, because we don't have a whole lot of apartments yet. That would change potentially with the new complexes going up. So the data is sort of what you would expect, especially if you confirm that it's a type 3. Type 3 is going to pull people off the street, and in fact will probably pull people from Littleton potentially, because if you ran out of charge that you put on your charge at home, you would go to your fast charger and give it a boost. That's all I would say.
That's a really great point.
Except it can be very confounding. You really have to separate out type 1 from type 2 because they're different creatures. They go for different people.
That's a super helpful comment, and I will do that in the next pass of the data. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that. Nice graphs as usual.
Did you want me to just jump into the school one next on the agenda?
Yeah, I think so. If you would send your slides to Margaret so that she can include them with the minutes, and yeah, go on to if there's any update on the Shaker Lane School Building Committee.
so it's not a very big update. So I was like, I could do it quickly. There have been meetings of the school building committee, but not sustainability oriented meetings. So I guess that's, you know, there isn't a lot to update from the sustainability perspective. Just sorry, getting to the end here, I added them. The latest presentation on the school building website includes this slide, which is, I think, quite helpful. Obviously, just generally to understand the timeline for the project, but also I think for us in terms of where we might next expect to have kind of a discussion around design and sustainability features within the design. So the schematic design and costing is sort of underway, and that is where they were debating the various different sort of electric systems, and where they have costed out the ground source and air source systems. Once that schematic design is in place, then really it's about going to the town meeting. Once and if that funding is confirmed, then they'll move to the detailed design phase and so on. And so I think that sort of module 6 is where, you know, engagement again, in terms of some of the features and the sustainability components, that's kind of an opportunity for us to re-engage. But once that schematic design is then in place, you know, there isn't a lot of, there aren't anticipated changes between now and the town meeting, really. So, and aside from obviously the advocacy and the kind of awareness raising. The other thing, again, which is relevant for the project as a whole, but I think also for us as a sustainability committee, is the alternative. The alternative, if this does not pass, is you're still looking at cost and potentially waste and less sustainable, more energy consuming options. So if the vote doesn't pass, the process itself would have to restart. But what that means is you would have to then go through building upgrades to the tune of around $44 million. So these are just kind of patching existing challenges with the building, putting in modular classrooms, losing some of the green space, and you know that will also cost the town, and that is not subsidized by MSBA. So I think just looking at that purely from a sustainability perspective, it's a lot of sort of construction effort, materials that are not ultimately in line with some of the sustainability goals that we'd want to see, even though it would bring the building up to code. So just kind of flagging those two slides, but they are available also on the town website, the building, school building website.
Right, thank you. Emily, did you have a comment?
Yes, this might be too late, but whenever I think about this new school, and I think about sustainability, one thing that really flags to me is that our town seems to be set up that requires that everyone in town has to get their child from one school to another that's not walking distance. And, you know, if grade kindergarten through second grade is Shaker Lane, and you're within walking distance, you can walk for those 2 years or help your child walk there. But then by definition, you change down to a different school system, and then you go to the high school. Have we considered from a sustainability perspective, an environmental perspective, having the elementary schools, the 2 elementary schools be true elementary schools, you know, 1 through Weber before they go to the middle school, and so that we can reduce the amount of travel that we have to our children through, and being bused everywhere or having parents dropping kids off. From a, again, sustainability, it's environmental, that our setup seems to promote that. I'm wondering if that would be something that's easier also to get through town meeting, to come in and say, this is a school that goes, all the way up till middle school. So elementary schools, you have 2 elementary schools, and then you go to middle school, and then you go to high school.
that has not been part of the conversation that I've heard. I think in my understanding of it, it would require completely starting from scratch on where to locate the buildings, and would require a different design profile. But I honestly can't say exactly. It hasn't come up in the conversations that I've been part of. There seems to be quite a strong preference to have the K-2 schools separately for kind of keeping the young kids in a sort of separate setup. Some of the things around as we've talked about with the climate action plan, like electrification of the bus services, like that's been more on the agenda, like having an electric fleet, for example, but not co-locating the actual physical buildings.
Our committee just got involved way too late. I mean, because this is what should have been discussed very early on. Think outside the box, not just what we've always done. So I was just wondering if whomever did the initial, looking at the schools, considered going outside the box or actually doing things that others would do. I mean, when I grew up, we had multiple elementary schools and everyone walked to school, and we did not have all this massive, transportation issues. That's all I want.
Unfortunately, I think this project is way past that point of discussion, but let's keep our eyes and ears open for what the next thing is, so that we can get in early enough on that project to.
If it's voted down, it's got into 7 years. Maybe we should rediscuss this. So,
All right. The next item, Climate Leaders Conference. No, so basically, I sent you guys out my notes. We don't need to go over it all. The one thing I'll point out is towards the end is some information about adopting the opt-in stretch code, and they gave just a super presentation and have a lot of resources, and really they've worked with a lot of different towns to they sort of know the questions that come up and how to address the concerns of all the parties involved, citizens and the municipality people and the builders, and so look at those notes and maybe go to that website. Like that was probably the most useful thing of the day that I saw, but you can read the notes.
I thought the notes were good, so thank you for putting them together. And you went to the conference, Diane Dickerson did, I did, and also Tom Birmingham, who we had a presentation from, was there.
Yep.
So it's a good conference to go to. Think about it next year.
Yep. All right. Okay. So the next item, I know we're right at 9, but let's see if we can do it quickly. So I put reorganization of the committee. So what I'm talking about, I'll tell you that. So I have 1 year left on my term, and I probably plan on ending my time on the committee in a year, because I've been here an awfully long time. So I wanted to make sure that we had a transition to a new chair. In the past, sort of the chair has sort of left, and we've had to pick up things on the fly. So I wanted to talk about that. And I also wanted to, Margaret, I think you've said that I don't know if you want to pass the clerk duties off to someone else, then that's certainly something that feel free to say that if you feel that's something you want.
Not yet, but it may come to that.
And it's very good, the job you do. Being a clerk is an important job, and they're very good minutes, so thank you.
It makes me happy if you want to continue. I just didn't want you to feel that you were forced to. Um, so I know, so I guess I've sort of run it by Charlotte. You expressed maybe some interest in helping out with being a chair. And so maybe we don't right now have a co-chair or vice chair defined, but we certainly could do that if I don't know how to do this, so I'll open up to if anyone else has any interest in it, please speak up.
Having a co-chair is a good way of doing a transition, and it's learning on the fly and with good support of the mentor. I mean, I think that would be a good solution, but yeah, there may be others.
I mean, you set a very high bar, Sarah. So I would concur with Don that whatever we choose, having a sort of mentorship co-chair type of setup would be really helpful, and I think it would ease any transition. Yeah, and I'm happy to put my hat in for that if that works.
I don't know, John, if you're going to wear a tricorn hat, we might need to.
I'm a doer, not a leader. I love it. So I would put my hat behind a co-chair for the committee, and love the idea of Charlotte, you taking that role if no one else is interested in running against it.
Do we need to take a motion or vote here?
Yeah, we should.
Yep.
I move that we established a co-chair for the Sustainability Committee and that we appoint Charlotte to that position.
I'll second.
And we should add
Okay.
one more thing, and that we re-elect or reappoint Sarah Rambacher as the other co-chair and Margaret Gibbs as the secretary of the committee, so that we get it all in one motion.
Perfect. Even better.
Yeah, and I'll second that as amended by John.
Do I need to keep track of all of these amendments?
No,
That's what I said to
No.
begin with. I just said it really quietly.
Oh, so I move that we establish a co-chair for the Sustainability Committee and that we establish co-chairs.
Co-chairs for the sustainability, and we appoint Sarah Rombacher and Charlotte Dolans. And
So can I say so I looked at the other committees, and at least the ones I looked at, there's always a chair, and then there's either co-chair or vice chair if there is one. So we may need to keep the chair designation. I think we could simplify it maybe of just saying that in the motion that we'll establish a co-chair position and the slate being, and then the three of us. Would that be acceptable?
sure.
Okay, then I don't know if, John, do you want to re-say it how you
say it out loud. So
Do you want me to say it?
yeah, why don't you say it? Even better.
Because I'm writing it down.
Yeah. I'll move
Lisa will get correct.
So I move that we establish a co-chair for the Sustainability Committee and that we appoint Charlotte Dolans to that position. The slate being Sarah Rambacher as chair, Charlotte as co-chair, and Margaret Gibbs as secretary.
clerk, please?
Second.
Wait a minute, who firsted it? John firsted it, right?
No,
Oh, no.
you proposed it. I'll take it.
We'll
Yes,
go with
I-
John proposed. John moved.
John moved. Rob seconded. Okay. Sarah, do you want to take a roll call vote?
I will do that. Did you say clerk or secretary? I think the role is clerk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we have it listed on the
Oh my
website now.
goodness.
Secretary. So if you want to say,
it
I thought
does?
it said secretary on there. Yeah.
do both.
Oh, Okay,
Either-
the other ones that I looked at said clerk. So,
Say
oh
clerk.
my goodness,
Secretary.
Michelle, you can see that we're just
A mess.
We should just go back to it. Let's just stick with where we've been. Sorry, Charlotte. I withdraw my. No, I'm just kidding.
all right. I think we have the motion, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we will go around for a roll call. Emily,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Charlotte. I couldn't hear you, but I saw you.
Yeah,
She's
you're
gone
on
silent.
double mute somewhere.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
I don't know what happened there.
All right. Rob,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. Thank you all. Okay. Were there any additional updates from anyone?
Just quickly, there was another climate action conference that Diane Dickerson and I went to. It was in Andover. It was very good. And what they're doing is putting together so-called recipe cards, which are, point solutions. So there's a lot of sharing. It was a very good conference. It was all free. And for reimbursement for the Bentley conference, who do I go to in the town government? Because I need a form.
Oh. Yep. I'll send you the form, Don, and
Okay.
who to send it to. I need to
Okay.
do that too, actually.
Yeah, because we'll hit the end of the fiscal year.
I know it's been on the back of my head.
Okay.
I
All right.
move that reimbursements are the role of the co-chair.
We'll talk about them.
I'm sorry, was
All right.
that a real motion?
No, that was
No.
not a real motion.
Okay. Just making sure.
Oh yeah, it's after 9. We've all gotten punchy. Okay. If there's nothing else, then I think we should thank Michelle for sitting through this with us
Yes.
and guiding us through this process.
I think we need to decide when we're going to have our next meeting. Just
Oh.
in case it's not a good idea to do it right before July 4th.
Oh, yes, I forgot
Sure.
about that. Yeah, our next meeting normally would be the 3rd. So do you want to move it to the 10th?
10th would be okay for me, I think.
I'll be a maybe. I may be at Scout Camp.
I'll be a maybe also because we're going to Alaska the next day. So
That'd be out of state, but that's okay with me.
Well, I don't know if we're getting a quorum then.
Right.
There's a lot of no's here.
1 no, 2 maybes. If the rest of you can make it, then we'll.
Charlotte, I
good.
think maybe you need to get closer to your mic or something.
Okay, here I am, like right up against them.
That's better.
I was just wondering if we are actually all out for the 3rd. I don't know.
That's a good question.
That is a good
How about-
question.
How about just a quick raise of hands? Like if you would be able to come on the 3rd.
Wait a second.
Okay, so that's
Looks
4.
like a quorum.
That's
And
a
how
quorum.
about on the 10th? Okay, actually it looks like maybe we should stick with the 3rd.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right, then is there a motion to adjourn?
Beforehand, can we put on the agenda for next time? We're going to talk about recycling day and what we might want to do as a sustainability committee in that.
What do you mean by recycling day? Do you mean a zero waste day or?
zero, well, I don't call it zero waste day, but recycling within the hard to recycle items within Littleton. And I can go in more detail of what the option could potentially look like next month. I mean, I was going to talk about today, but I think we're too late to go into that.
Okay. Okay. Now,
I
is there a
move to
motion?
adjourn.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Emily,
Yes.